Hi, I'm Feroz Khan, and welcome to Drag and Drop Low Code Unplugged, the podcast where we explore the game-changing impact of low code in software development. Join me in insightful conversations with IT leaders and passionate low code enthusiasts who are at the forefront of this digital evolution. Together, we'll explore how early adoption of low code is giving businesses a competitive edge on a global scale. We'll discuss its impact on software development, dissect its role in transforming businesses, and uncover the ways in which it's reshaping career trajectories. So whether you're a seasoned IT professional or a curious enthusiast, be sure to tune in as we share success stories and unravel the mysteries of low code. Subscribe now and stay tuned for a front row seat to the revolution that's shaping the future of technology. So let's go. Hi Jeremy, how are you?
I'm doing wonderfully. How are you today, Feroz?
I'm good, thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time and being a guest. I know we've been speaking for a while, so it's great to have you on as a guest and kind of hear what you have to say.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I'm excited to be here. It's my first interview ever, so we'll see how it goes. It should be fun.
Amazing. It'd be good to, I think a lot of people, especially in the US, know you from, you present at conferences and, you're around. But for those who may not know Jeremy, it'd be good to have a bit of background, a bit about yourself.
Sure. So, I don't know how far back we want to go here, but I'm originally from Michigan and, raised there in a little tiny town called Houghton Lake and lived in Metro Detroit for a while, went to school in Ann Arbor and just kind of decided that I did not want to end up in Michigan. It was really cold for a lot of the year.
Yeah.
So I traveled the United States extensively for 4 years and tried to figure out where I wanted to be and ended up here in Houston, Texas with the 3 kids and just, loving every minute. So kind of an interesting journey on how I got here, but Texas is the place to be.
Amazing. And, shifting to your kind of career, when did your kind of passion or interest in technology kind of, appear?
Yeah. So basically, so around 10 years old, so this was, let's go 1987, right? So I'll age myself there. I started asking my mother incessantly for a computer. And I finally broke her down by the time I was 11 years old. So it took me about a year. And, I really just loved it. I thought it was great. I spent all my time I could working on it. And I did live in a really small town too. So it was nice to have an outlet of something I could do.
Sure.
And then, I went to university and computers were always just a hobby for me. I didn't ever realize it could be a job for some reason. I don't know why that didn't, occur to me.
Yeah.
And I was going to school for nuclear engineering. And just I had the business that my stepmother worked for called me one day and said, "Hey, we hear these, websites have pictures now. And we know you've always loved computers. Could you make us a website?" And I made a website. And at that point in time, I actually ended up with a computer problem. And I told the person who hired me, I said, "Hey, I have the website. We're all good. It's going to take me a week or two to get my computer fixed up, and then I'll give it to you." And she said, "Well, you have never asked us about payment or anything. You just seem to be doing it for free." She said, "Why don't I just go buy you a new computer?" And
very nice.
I said, "Whoa, I can actually make a job out of this." So I switched into computer engineering and I started my first small business in Ann Arbor, which was a2coupons.com with a couple friends of mine.
Cool.
And my computer journey kind of took off from there. Then I ended up with the dot-com boom, again, kind of dating myself a little bit. I got one of those dot-com boom jobs. I got one of those dot-com boom fires, or dot-com crash fires, sorry.
Yeah.
And, and ended up back in Michigan and just started another small business. And basically made several small businesses, did software development, and then, of course, needed hosting environment. So I had a small data center, or racks in a data center that I was reselling for people, for my customers. And then basically just kept doing that and eventually designed and developed an IoT product, started a business with another partner and got that into several Fortune 500 companies in 6 different countries. And yeah, it was actually really a neat product, a patented product, and really fun. I learned a whole lot, and then COVID came,
Yeah.
and we couldn't get chips. It was a hardware product, and so basically that helped me close that business, which was
Yeah.
unfortunate, but another learning experience. And then I was thinking, well, my kids are at a formative age. Do I really want to go start another business? Because
Yeah.
starting a business means I disappear for a couple
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
And so I decided no. So I took about 6 to 8 months to try to figure out what I wanted to do next. And I found OutSystems. And I loved it. And I basically called up and said, hey, I think this is great. Where can I kind of fit in? Here's what my
Yeah.
experience is. And the recruiter got me to the technical success team, which is where I'm at now.
Mm.
And the rest is history. I've been loving it. It's a great fit. So
That's amazing. And when you
yeah.
kind of were figuring out what you wanted to do, and
Mhm.
one, had you heard of low code before? And two, kind of how did you kind of stumble across OutSystems in the first place when doing your kind of research? Because obviously OutSystems is big, but in
Mhm.
the US, obviously it's still, it's still developing. It's still, it's big, but not quite compared to these traditional languages. So, how did you kind of, when did you first come across low code and know that low code was this thing? And, when did OutSystems kind of fall into it?
So, well, all of the work I'd done previously has all been in software development. So,
Mm.
even prior to low code, code generators, things along these lines,
Yeah.
I had used basically everything. Uh, my work was always small business. It was teams of six
Mm.
generally working on, development. So, not very large organization. So, anything we could do to try to cut that time down made a very large impact on the bottom line. So, I was always looking for these tools, but I was probably the largest low code detractor that you could find.
Yeah.
Uh, Basically, we had all scaffolding templates, everything in Visual Studio. That was really the best way we could find to get consistent product, good timelines out the door. And we really stuck with that the whole entire time. So after when I was looking for a new place to work, or what my new career would be, and
Yeah.
not starting a business and trying something different, I thought I want to find something exciting and new. I've always kind of had a growth mindset. I like to learn.
Mm.
When you're nervous and you get that butterflies in your stomach about something, that's called
Yeah.
growth, in my
Yeah.
opinion. So I'm always
Yeah.
looking for that thing. So I was just looking up new technologies, advanced way to code. And I came across several different things. I actually
Mm.
downloaded OutSystems. I went through the first half of the first guided pass of the reactive web
Yeah.
guided path.
Yeah.
And I basically did a test. I said, this is really interesting. I want to see how low
Mm.
code's doing. And I went to Visual Studio and I created a simple employee management system. So I used all my scaffolding I had. I
Yeah.
generated
Yeah.
the screens, add, edit employees, that whole thing. And it took me 48 minutes.
Wow.
And I thought I did a great job. I made the data model. I did everything. I
Yeah.
connected the whole thing. And I really thought I did a great job. And with my half of the first guided path's worth of knowledge, I did it in OutSystems in 12 minutes.
Wow. Wow.
And not only did I do it in 12 minutes, it had better validation. It worked on all the different screen sizes. And I was just completely and totally wowed.
Yeah.
And I thought, if I can do that in one quick session of learning and
Yeah.
figure this out over the course of a day or two, I mean, this could really actually help some people. And I was just completely on board. So that's how I found them. That's how I
Amazing.
decided to try to
Yeah.
get in there. And I don't want this to sound like an OutSystems commercial, but it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
it was it was transformative. It really was.
Yeah.
I was very
Yeah.
impressed. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And prior, when you kind of, you worked across obviously multiple tech
Mhm.
businesses, did you have prior to low code, like a preferred traditional stack that you like to
Oh
use?
yeah. So, I mean, over the years, I did several stacks. The one I was on primarily was C Sharp, SQL
Yeah.
Server. Then, of course, when I was doing the IoT devices in that last business, that was all done in C++ for the
Yeah.
most part. But of course, it reported up to, C Sharp stack up,
Yeah.
running on IIS servers and such. So, yeah, always SQL Server and C Sharp for
Mhm.
almost since C Sharp came out. Prior to that,
Yeah. Wow.
Java. Prior to that, Fortran.
Wow.
Dating myself again. So
Amazing. And with
yeah.
your, can you tell us about, you're a technical success manager. Can you tell us a bit kind of what that role entails?
Sure. So my particular role, slightly different. So I am the manager of the technical success team for
Yep.
Central and West. And my role is really wonderful. I get to meet with new customers. I get to talk about the success plans themselves. I get to meet with the team and see what interesting projects they're working on. The team is great. So it's nice
Yeah.
because I have a whole bunch of people telling me really interesting stories.
Yeah. Cool.
So my day is generally pretty interesting. And then, of course, I get to work with customers and the technical success managers, the people on my team,
Yep.
work with customers as well. What we do in those engagements is basically we come in and we do a lot of great things. Our main focus
Yeah.
is enablement. So we learn what you're working on. We help you plan adoption of OutSystems. We are all very technical. So
Yep.
everyone has a background in development of some sort, architecture, and
Hmm.
very, very skilled individuals on the team. And we basically meet with your team. We talk about best practices. We review what we're doing or what you're doing. We answer architectural questions. We do technical debt reports. We explain what technical debt is, why code patterns are good or bad, how we would mitigate those risks, and basically just kind of work with your team on a regular basis, become part of the team and know what projects you're working on to make
Yeah.
sure that you're successful.
Yeah.
So,
And when you're obviously, yeah, your goal is to make sure they succeed with the
mhm.
platform, right? And, get the most out of it. What's kind of some, common challenges you find when you're speaking to these businesses that they're having before kind of you guys enter the fold?
Yeah. So, well, I mean, they're talking about their just low code in general coming
Yeah.
in. Everyone we talk to, every single time, has right too much backlog and not enough developer time. Right, and that's really kind of the key there. I mean, a lot of them are larger organizations, but even the
Mm.
smaller organizations, right? You also run into not only backlog and developer time, but expertise on managing the platform. They need to get into the cloud. They need a provider that they can trust because they might not have that expertise in house either. So really, those are kind of the pain points. It's server management, and we need to build more with less time. And OutSystems really does help you do that. So now, once they kind of get in the door, you do run into a couple other things that are interesting, though. And I would say so. One of them is developers. A lot of times, developers they say, "Well, I've been doing C# or I've been doing Java, and I've
Yeah.
been doing it for 15 years, and I can go anywhere, and I can go get a job doing C#.
Yeah.
So you want me to turn around and learn this OutSystems thing? What's going on? Why do I want to learn OutSystems?
Mm.
And so, we do have to talk to the developers about that. I think my team is uniquely situated for that because we all
Yeah.
have development backgrounds.
Yeah.
And, I think we just tell people, right? One, it's another tool.
Yeah.
It's something that you should know. The other thing is, and I love this one, it's like, do you still code in assembly? No, you don't,
Yeah.
right? You trust the compiler and you code in a higher level language than that. You're in an object oriented language. Well, this is the next evolution. So I basically try to get people, if you can get somebody to go through half of the first guided path like I did, or the whole guided
Mm.
path, and then try to build something. Just give it a shot. We have free editions online.
Yeah.
Try it out. And I have not had an open-minded developer do that test and not come back and say, "Oh wow."
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And, like you said, I guess it helps that, all your team is, come from that traditional background
mhm.
yourself. So you're not just only worked with low code and you're trying to kind of push something and get people to kind of join this low code community without really understanding you've done the transition yourself as well. So there's a bit of kind
Mhm.
of tick of approval, kind of, you've got validation.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, the thing is there's also some mindset changes that have to happen. I mean, I don't want to
Mm.
say that everything is an amazing conversion. There are definitely
Yeah.
things you have to learn. So, one of the things that we run into a lot is questions with branching.
Mm.
And we're a system, we use trunk-based development. It's actually wonderful, but it's something to get used to. It's not the same cadence people use. And I see that being another difficulty that some organizations come through. I mean, depending what the level of buy-in of OutSystems is, right? Some people come,
Mm.
C-level is
Yeah.
saying, hey, we're going to do this. And other
Yeah.
times it's just a business unit. But making sure we have the power to change practices.
Mm.
Because if you just take this tool, it's a transformative tool, and you just drop it in and you try and fit your standard practices around it, you're not going to get, well, you're going to get actually really good ROI, but you're not going to get the ROI we're capable of giving you.
Yeah.
So there are things where I'll see, for instance, people adopt and the developers are adopting it. Developers love it. And that's fabulous. So the developers are finishing their projects much faster. Well, when your developers finish their projects much faster, but nothing else has changed, what happens?
Mm.
Your developers sit around
Yeah.
because the testers are still following the same practices, or we don't have, ideation's not coming in quick enough for us to have more backlog. So there's really this ripple effect that has to happen in order to get the greatest ROI from the platform because it is transformative.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that's the other thing that I see to really get a successful implementation and adoption is for people to understand the bigger picture of what it can do. Yes, it
Yeah.
can help you develop that application more quickly, but it can help you create a better ecosystem all around for generating applications more quickly.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what I was
Mm-hmm.
going to ask about. Obviously, when these customers are adopting the
Mm-hmm.
platform, what's the, what would you say is the best way to ensure it's a smooth transition so they don't have these issues?
Sure. So, I mean, there's a lot of things I could recommend here. I mean, again, the first one would
Mm.
make sure that we understand the vision.
Yeah,
And that's for a global platform play. You can also, of course, do a single use case play. And okay, so some of the best things I would say are make sure you have a defined use case. If you just go, hey, we want a new technology, we're looking for a new
yeah,
way, but you don't have a pain point, you don't have a something you want to try it on, make sure we have a defined use case. That use case should have value to it. It should be medium complexity, not super high complexity, because your
yeah,
team needs to learn some best practices. Make sure you have some time for your team to train. I think one of the things that happens in the sales cycle, and it's exceptionally true, is we focus on it's fast and it's easy.
yeah.
And it truly is. It is fast and it is easy and that's amazing. But it's also very deep.
Mm.
And if you just focus on the fast and amazing, often people will go, well, let's give a really tight timeline or let's give a really complex project. And you still have to learn it. You still have to, understand the system and learn the system like any other tool. And then once you do, then you go for the tight timelines and the high complexity. But we have to start somewhere smaller a little bit. And another thing I would say is a hub and smoke model is really great when you're bringing your teams on board. I've seen some customers come in and they go 6 teams go,
Yeah,
and well, they haven't built a practice. They right, they're solving the same problems in different ways, and you really want to get one team in, do a project, right? Get your feet on
yeah,
the ground, build some practices, build some processes, and then the next team comes in and has that first team teaching them the
mm.
processes. And then all of a sudden you end up with multiple teams working and developing, but you have team agnostic development. Someone can move from one team to another team, right? Everybody's handling problems the same way, and it really just works out very well. The other thing I would say is to have enthusiastic people, growth mindset people coming in on that first round.
Yeah,
Because, I mean, it is change, it is different. And that does make some people uncomfortable. And if you apply the right people in that first round and they have that open mind, they're going to see what they can do. They're going to keep that big picture and that vision. And it really does lead to a transformative experience.
yeah. And speaking of that, kind of, you're talking about the people itself. When you're speaking to these, you mentioned guys who've been doing C# for this long, and .NET or whatever traditional coding, and they don't want to learn low code, or they might be skeptical to start with. What do
Mhm.
you? We'll talk about the kind of latest features a bit later on, but prior to kind of the latest kind of features that have come out, what are some of the features in the platform that you think really grabs people's attention?
Oh, yeah, sure. So, I mean, now I would say there's a division depending on what type of developer we're working with. Are you,
Yeah,
front end, back end?
yeah,
You mostly data. One thing I love seeing people is when we say, okay, let's do some API work. I mean, it sounds so simple, but
yeah.
you can just go in multiple API, put in an address, it defines everything, it creates all the structures, and you can literally be connected working with effectively an API in a minute and a half,
Wow.
right? And 30 seconds of
Yeah,
that is your build time. So it's really impressive to get somebody in that area. The other thing I see is we do work with a lot of back-end coders,
yeah,
and it's really great to just be able to drag an entity, have a form pop up, validations ready, right? You wire up a save button in a couple seconds. It works on a small screen. It works on a big screen. I didn't end up doing all that. And then I turn around and I go, oh, hey, there was a typo. And I change that typo and it's updated on the screen. Like all over the place, it's updated.
yeah,
And I mean, it's so nice. So I really do like all of that. It's everything kind of integrated, built in. And then I think from, moving beyond the developer, it's the fact that we're reducing shadow IT. So this is,
yeah,
going up to the next level here. We make it so people they don't have to be a pro developer. They can come in and I'm sure, other low code platforms can do this as
yeah,
well, right? I don't
yeah,
know a lot about them, but you can come in. I can replace a spreadsheet with this application with very little technical knowledge, have a nice interface that actually does validation for me, and my IT team can manage it. So, but I do think the ease of UI, the full platform
yeah.
in kind of one window, it really does make people happy. If you can get somebody to use the system with an open mind, I find them to be very excited about it.
Yeah, yeah. And as someone who kind of, you're speaking to customers all the time, and
Hmm.
obviously your team is bringing you conversations with customers as well. Do you have maybe one or two customer stories, without obviously mentioning who the customer is, that you could share, just kind of, a success story?
Sure. So, I mean, we actually have a whole lot of success stories. I don't know how much detail I can get in or what I can say, but
Yeah,
I guess so. One story I actually like is we come into a large financial institution and they're basically inundated. They're not getting anything done, and the sentiment at that point in time is, okay, tell us what project we should maybe consider OutSystems for. And it's an uphill battle on every project. And right, first project gets done, second project gets done, they start realizing the power. All of a sudden, they're like, assign another team, assign another team, assign another team. And eventually, right, we're at 40 developers replacing their core system.
yeah,
And right, so core financial system being replaced completely in OutSystems. And they turn around and there's actually a mandate that you have to explain why we're not doing it on OutSystems. And I think that speaks to the power of the platform. I mean, it's difficult because in that one I didn't say a very specific problem, but their
yeah.
core needed to be rewritten, and right, the maintenance on it. I mean, it's 20 years old, and
Wow.
right, maintaining a system like that is difficult. You lose expertise over the years, and that's another, I think, great thing as well. Um, when you have that traditional code, you had somebody who wrote this, and hopefully they put some decent commenting in there, and you might have some documentation, and but that person's eventually going to go, and then somebody else is going to have to maintain this, and it can be a difficult process to bring somebody else in, and you lose that expertise. And when you have those visual flows like we have in OutSystems, it's really easy to get in there and actually see what somebody did, and to be able to maintain that code in the future. But so again, I don't know if that counts as a customer story, but we
Yeah,
definitely
yeah,
have transformative there. I did. We had a law firm that I worked with, which was interesting, and they basically needed to create a system that would allow all of the different attorneys to bill at different rates across multiple countries, and they'd been trying to do it in traditional code and actually failed for a few different reasons there. and came in with OutSystems. They were able to not only build it themselves, but this is one of those areas where I say, right, remembering it's a transformative technology,
Yeah.
they were so far under timeline, they had the ability to clone a very popular word game and set it up for the entire company to
Wow.
to have tournaments that they do and give out prizes
That's
because
cool.
right they were able to finish so far under deadline there. But I would say it's great because with OutSystems and maybe with some others, I don't know as much about them.
Mm.
You can incorporate libraries you've already built. So when they were working on this project, they had C# libraries that were doing some of
Yeah.
this work that had already been tested. And that was able to really accelerate their timeline because they could just wrap it, bring it into OutSystems, and have all that functionality right there with them. But yeah, we do. I mean, we work with some of the most complex customers that we
Yeah.
have with my team. And a lot of it, it's really not, we have this one particular pain and we need you to
Yeah.
fix it. It's, we can't develop enough. We can't develop fast enough. And we fix that. We have great success at that. The people are able to get in there and develop more than they ever have. And again, we run into the spot with that ripple. What do we do after the developers are fast? How else do we pull some speed out of here? And you know, we have people that help with that. I'm sure there are, you know, large consultancies that can help with that as well. But building your low code practice is right. I think very important if you want to pull the highest ROI out of it. And right,
Yeah.
solve
Yeah.
the underlying issue, which is trying to get enough talent to build our backlog out.
Yeah. 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 And
Mm-hmm.
when you're speaking to customers, at the moment, everything is about AI. Every
Mm-hmm.
conversation involves AI, and I'm interested to know kind of when you're speaking to these customers, how far back did this AI discussion start? The questions start coming up for you.
Sure. So, I mean, AI has been popping up. I mean, probably a year and a half, they really started coming up. But a year and a half ago, it was, what is this?
Yeah.
Right? We come to about a year ago, and it's like, well, this is interesting. 6 months ago, everybody's like, okay, we need to get in on this,
Yeah.
but we're afraid because where's my data going to go? Is it going to end up in someone else's cloud? Who's going to be able to read it? And there's a lot of fear about AI, but it is in every conversation now, straight across the board with every
Yeah.
customer. It's coming up. So I guess I shouldn't say every, but most of them, we
Most.
are
Yeah.
talking about AI at some level. So there are some areas, generally government or financial institution, healthcare, they're a
Yeah.
little more careful with the AI conversation again
Yeah.
because information security, things along those lines.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
what's your kind of personal view on AI? There's this thing about obviously why use AI with low code when you can use it with traditional.
Okay.
I'm keen to kind of know what your kind of views are on that.
Oh yeah. So okay, well, first just my view on AI. I think AI is wonderful. So
Yeah.
I've been using AI a whole bunch for a lot of different things. Generative AI is great. AI it's not going to replace people, right? People need to work with AI. AI is a tool. I mean, at one point in time, you had photographers sitting in dark rooms, dodging and burning, and now of course you have Photoshop.
Yeah.
And right, this is another tool. Now I think it's a transformative tool. It's going to be exceptionally important. It's going to be in every part of society. What it's going to do though is it's going to raise the bar, right? So when I use AI, I don't generally save time. I mean, maybe on some tasks, like if I was going to research a bunch of different websites, it'll, aggregate that down and give it to me, and that's really nice. But a lot of times I'm working with AI as a buddy. It's my partner in whatever I'm working on. I end up taking about the same amount of time, but my end product is much better. So it's going to raise that bar up. And there's, the people who are going to be using AI and are familiar with AI and use that tool as part of their workflow, their work product is going to improve. The people who aren't, their work product is not going to improve. And right, they should really be doing it because it's an exceptional tool. As far as how it goes in development, well, first I'd like to say anybody who's really spent a lot of time in software development realizes how much of software development isn't actually software development. it's governance, and it's deployments, and it's auditing, and it's maintaining, and it's dealing with stakeholder conversations and getting buy-in, and there's a whole lot of other things that are involved here. So sure, AI can generate some code for you, and it can help with those things. And I've used it for that, right? It's great, and it does give me some good ideas. Sometimes it approaches a problem differently than I would have, which I get to use to learn. But somebody still has to tie all that together. Somebody has to make the whole system. And even if AI could come in and deploy it, we're not going to remove the human component. Now, what I really like about OutSystems and low code, I think AI is going to bolster OutSystems. I think OutSystems and low code will bolster AI because they're tools that can work really well together. So if we think about low code in general or OutSystems, what did we do? We abstracted you from code. We abstracted you from more typing and boilerplate and detail. Well, right now, what I'm seeing is in the background, AI can move at a very fast pace. I don't think we as consumers of AI can even see what AI can do yet, because as AI progresses, the tools have to come out to let us see how much better it is, and making those tools takes time. Well, what we're doing here with low code is we're going to abstract you from that as well. We're not going to, as a developer, I'm not going to have to learn all the nuances of those new tools. I'm not going to have to figure all those things out. OutSystems is going to do it. We're going to make it available to you. And then we're going to take all that information we're getting from AI. We're going to smash it together in an actual application. It's not going to be little chunks of code. And we're going to have the deployment and the governance and all of those things built in for you. So, and I think one of the greatest, achievements here or in that regard is looking at Mentor. So we have Mentor. It's this might not sound all that professional. It's super cool. I mean, it's almost fantasy like. I mean, to be able to take anybody with some small level of technical knowledge. I mean, you have to have, a little bit of information of how to, lay out some information, but you can even go to AI and ask for it to generate requirements for your application, what kind of application you want. And you can feed these into the system and it will create an application. And, that's not the end game. I mean, maybe if you have a really simple use case, you get an application out of it and you can use it, and that's great. But I think the thing that's interesting, especially people who have worked with customers trying to design an application, customers, right? People, me, anybody, you don't know what you want until you don't see it, right? You go, oh, that was definitely not it. And we need to do this here, or this should be different. And something like Mentor lets people get in there and look at it and go, oh, no, I want it a little differently, and tweak it and see it again and tweak it and see it again. And all of those communication cycles are normally done with developers, right? Or with project managers or with somebody else. But when a project manager does it, they're going to go talk to a developer. And, right, that's a lot of time developers aren't developing. It's a lot of time project managers are just in communication. And so now they can iterate themselves. A business user can iterate themselves. They can get the application. Let's say it's something very simple. Well, they can deploy it and we have governance. IT can manage it. We can see it. Let's say it's a more complex use case. And I think this is something we did great with Mentor, even better than our previous tools with OutSystems, like our integration builders and things, is they develop, the business user can develop. Or even a professional developer, it's going to save you some time, right? You know how to create requirements documents, so it helps there as well. And then we pump that out. We get some feedback on it on the initial round. We can show business stakeholders. Okay, stakeholders are now buying in because they get to see something. And then we turn around and we can go edit the code. And here's where it gets great. After we've edited the code, we can turn around and open it again in Mentor. And we can make more edits in Mentor. And then we can turn around and edit the code again. And you can basically just keep going back and forth between them, leveraging the power of AI and then leveraging the power of the human together. And you can really get, again, higher bar, amazing output with that AI input. But the human's there, the human's involved. And I think what's going to happen is we're going to get a better product. We're going to save a whole lot of communication cycles. And all that time we saved in those communication cycles is going to go to that backlog.
Yeah.
And we're going to find that backlog is going to grow. Even though we're able to take stuff out, people are going to realize we can move faster. We're creating better products. They're more interactive because we can show them things earlier. And right, people are going to be happier. backlog's going to be happier, developers are going to be happier, and our product's going to get better. So I think AI is amazing. I think Mentor is a good example of how low code can leverage AI and really have a synergy that makes everybody win.
Yeah.
So
That's amazing. And yeah, I was in Amsterdam when they kind of released Mentor, and we spoke to a few customers there who initially are quite excited by it, and what, from the demo and everything like that. What's the kind of early feedback you've had while speaking to customers?
Yeah. Okay. So, well, right now we have an early access program that's going on for Mentor. The people who see it think it's really cool. I mean, it's again, maybe not the most professional way to say that, but when you can go and you can put in a requirements document or write something very vague and it pops up and it gives you an idea, and then you can hit generate and you can see it on the screen and you can interact with it and you can touch it and it works. It makes people happy, right? It makes me happy, right? I've been developing for a long time.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean, yeah, the feedback's really, really good. People like what we're doing there. People often ask, they go, well, where's this going to fit? Right?
Yeah.
That's the question. And, I do think it's at this point in time, I think as it gets better, right, this is going to grow from there. But at this point in time, I think it's an amazing tool for simple use cases, but it's even better for allowing people to create the idea, to give the vision, and then to save those communication cycles,
Yeah.
which is all time and money, and then give it to the professional developers to then, put a bow on it, make it pretty, and have, the fine detail there, and get it out the door. So, but yeah, it's very good stuff. I'm excited for it to be general release. I don't know when its general availability is going to be, but yeah, I think it's going to make a lot of people happy.
Yeah, and I think everyone's quite happy because obviously originally Morpheus was kind of introduced and everyone was waiting around to see what would happen, to then now have this be released. I think it's kind of added to the excitement that, okay, we're now seeing what OutSystems have been working on in the background, and it's now kind of come to light, and it's quite, it's a game changer really. So that's really great. And as you're always speaking to customers, you mentioned about developers, what would be your kind of, and, we speak to people like that all the time. And one question I like to ask all my guests is about, obviously, what would be your message to customers, developers who are still skeptical of low code, and especially for kind of enterprise level, what would be your message to them?
So, I mean, I think the first message is try it. Get somebody with an open mind to go try it. If you take a senior dev or a principal dev who really just likes to learn and wants to try something, they're going to be impressed. Outside of that, I always stick with this message because I think it just rings so true. Are you still coding in assembly? You're not coding in assembly. You're not coding in assembly because we all realize that there's a better way. You can do it more quickly. You can do it in a more maintainable way. And it was an evolution. Well, this is another evolution. And right, fighting evolution is not a good plan. Let's go to the next evolution. Let's get all the benefits. We've learned all these things. And it's not only faster development. Great, development's faster. I mean, I think that's wonderful. But just the same way you trusted the compiler to have optimized code and great output for you, well, we're able to do that too. You now have your code is standardized in the background because OutSystems is generating it. You can test less because you can trust OutSystems. You don't have to write. Not everything was handwritten by somebody. Or I just think you can leverage it in so many ways, build the processes around it, and it's really great. The other thing I'd say is go online, look at our use cases. We have use cases, millions of end users on these projects. I mean, you can create whatever size application. You can support your large user base. And let's say you don't have a large user base. Let's say if you have a small user base, you can get an application out really quick to your small user base. You can integrate very quickly with a lot of different third-party components, anything you need. And I guess the last thing I would say, talk to one of our salespeople. They will get you in touch with one of our other customers. There's nothing better than talking to a customer who's already done the journey, and they're going to share how it went along the way. And sneak preview went really well.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, but yeah, I think that's really the key. It is an evolution. Embrace the evolution, but have somebody come in and look at it internally and give you their own opinion. But find the right person. If you find somebody who doesn't want to change or doesn't like change or is scared by change, it's probably not the right person, because I've used this word a lot today. It is a transformative technology. It does
yeah.
change how you have to work in software development if you want to get the greatest ROI. You can keep your original practices and still get a good return, but if you're open to change, it's going to be amazing for you.
Amazing. And
Mhm.
I'm keen to know. Obviously, obviously, OutSystems, European company. So in Europe, it's
Mhm.
obviously really well known. Developers, most people will know low code and OutSystems. In the US, when you're going to these customers, do you still get people who kind of don't really never heard of it, or is it quite now more kind of well known?
No, we do get that. And I would say, so I've been at OutSystems for a little over 3 years, and I have noticed it less, but we
Mm,
still do see it. And um, we're hardly ever the only low
yeah,
code vendor in the conversation. Basically,
yeah,
what happens a lot of times is there's a low code initiative. People,
yeah,
right, we're reading Gartner reports or
sure,
whatever it may
yeah,
be,
yeah, yeah,
and they're bringing everybody in, and it's not just us. They don't know who anybody at the table
yeah,
is. And so there's a lot of time, we have multiple meetings of just who we are. Yes, we've been around for a
mm,
long time. Check out this customer list that's been with us
yeah,
for a long time. And, it's nice that we are well known in
yeah,
Europe, because a
yeah,
lot of times people will have a division in Europe
yeah,
or
of
a
course, yeah, yeah,
subsidiary or something. So we can make that connection, and
yeah,
it's,
sure,
more of an internal voice. But we do run into that. So it's not only skepticism of low code and all the change that's going to go on and how are we going to get this in there and getting
mm,
our developers on board. We also have well, who is this company? Can we trust them? Are they going to be around
yeah,
in 10 and 20
yeah,
years, because we're building our core systems on it? So yeah, it's always a conversation that's there. I will say that the sales team, the team that handles all those things, they really do a
yeah,
great job with it, because by the time it gets to my team, people are pretty
on board.
confident and feeling pretty
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. That's
So
great. That's great.
mhm.
And finally, kind of, looking ahead, for yourself, and just, is there any kind of, things you're looking forward to personally or professionally into the future that you can share?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, one of the things I was going to touch on too with Mentor that I'm excited about
Yeah,
here, and this is speculation.
yeah,
Mentor, I think, was a moonshot, and we really nailed it. So I think
yeah,
that's fabulous. But I think what's going to come out of that as well is, well, now that we can generate all these applications, we can do all this work. It's getting smaller accelerators throughout the whole platform. I mean, right? It's click on something, generate all the service actions necessary. It's a lot of smaller elements that AI can help with for our day-to-day development, not just that initial huge build. So I'm really excited to see what little tools we build out of
yeah,
Mentor that are going to poke around or pop up in the system. So there's one thing. Another thing I would say, I don't know if I'm looking forward to, but I'm really curious about how we're gonna do with this is thinking about AI and how this is going and how it's scaling. I mean, CPU is going to be a very interesting commodity coming here in our future. And I'm curious to see how we're going to handle that. I think it's interesting, coupled with the move to cloud computing and cloud
yeah,
native. I mean, getting into how ODC works as well. Everybody
yeah,
talks about hyper scalability, and we can scale up as high as you want. But I think um, taking AI into account and taking the potential CPU shortage that could be coming. I
yeah,
mean, we have to make chips so quickly. What about, I'll make up this word, the hyposcalability? The fact that, right, we can scale down when it's not in use, and we
yeah,
don't have a lot of wasted CPU cycles. The current process is, well, you spin up a VM or you get a hardware and it has this many gigahertz processor, and if you're not using it all, well, it's just sitting there
yeah,
wasted. So this move to cloud native, the right, which we're doing with ODC, of course, and AI, of course, using all these CPU cycles, I think the hypo-scalability, the ability to scale down when not in use, is going to be very important. I want to kind of see how that works out. Another thing I'm super excited for, this is just, in general, would be, AI with robotics. So, right, I'm guessing we've all seen, like the Boston Dynamics dog running around, or the different robots doing flips and things like that. And more recently, right, from Tesla, coming out with some things. I mean, how amazing is this going to be, where we have robotics capable of, smoother movements, and then we can couple that with AI, is going to be just really amazing. And now, one part that I think with that scares me a little bit, though, is as AI gets better at interacting with us, we're always going to have to be careful, because the AIs run off of, right, a large language model. The large language model is owned and operated by somebody.
Yes.
And right now, the interactions are a little, they don't feel quite natural. They don't feel like you're speaking to a human. So there's always this level of, I'm going to check it. It might be hallucinating, and looking at, all the different angles there. I think as AI gets better, and then through robotics, AI becomes personified, people are going to maybe lose that skepticism, which we're going to have to be careful about, because that means whoever owns the LLM has the ability to effectively program us by feeding us particular levels of information. So, but I think it's an exceptionally exciting time. I mean, obviously, I'm a big tech nerd, right, of my whole life. And the AI is amazing. I want to see how we handle, again, CPU, GPU, how we're going to do those things. I think AI is going to change a whole lot of things in how we work. So I think that's really the key. And I think how we leverage AI with OutSystems, how software development changes, it's going to be amazing. I think we're in a very unique and exciting time. I would say, it's probably the first time in our lives where we have no idea, or at least I have no idea, what my children's lives will be like.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
When I was growing up, my parents pretty much had a good idea that I was going to go to work every day from like a 9 to 5-ish, and right, I was going to have, and it was going to work this particular way. And the world is changing at a really fast rate. And we'll think about, right, AI, talking to another AI, coming up with advancements for all of us to leverage. I mean, we can't even see where it's going to go. It is exceptionally exciting. I'm very happy about it.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to look forward to. Definitely. Well, no, I really appreciate you taking the time, Jim. It was really great to talk to you and hear your journey, your views on, low code, AI, and the excitement you have for mentoring just the future. And it was just great to have you on. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the opportunity. If ever another one comes up, I'm game. Let me know.
Yeah, I think we definitely should speak again in the future, and see kind of, as things evolved in the low code and AI space. I think we'd have a whole nother episode of other things to talk about anyway. So we'll definitely keep in touch anyway, and hopefully we can do it again.
Nice. Sounds great. Thank you.
Sounds great. Thanks, Jeremy. Thank you for listening to today's episode, which is brought to you by ITRAC. We are a leading staffing firm that solely specializes in supplying both contract and permanent low-code professionals to organizations globally. Navigating the niche landscape of the low-code market requires the best talent, and we recognize its critical importance for our clients. Whether you're a company looking to strengthen your team, an individual seeking the next career move, or someone entirely new to the world of low-code, we're here for you. Our extensive experience and in-depth market knowledge enables us to quickly pinpoint the ideal candidates while offering expert advice and support at every stage of your low-code journey. Reach out to us through our website or connect with me directly on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to assist you. Thank you once again for joining us today. We'll be back next week with another insightful episode. Until then, take care.